Welcome to this final day of pure.
Hey everybody, my name is Jake. I am a former Jehovah's Witness, current zit on my head haver, and I'm trying all the blurs and the filters, but we can only do so much, folks. But it's true, I used to be a Jehovah's Witness. I'm not anymore, and this is a very exciting time of year because we've got the JW Convention going on. The last few weeks, I have been reacting to videos. I got sent a leaked copy of a pre-recorded version of a JW convention. We've been going through it because they make special propaganda videos specifically for these conventions, and they are really for JW eyes only. This is not the kind of stuff that they would show a normal person at their door, except for one video that we might talk about. But I've always wanted to, because I am a former Jehovah's Witness, I've always wanted to get somebody from another religion's perspective on this. And so today we have a friend of the channel, Shelise from the Cult to Consciousness YouTube channel. Welcome.
Hey, thanks, Jake. I loved your intro, and I feel honored that you actually edited it to put my name on it. I was like, oh, wow, it's so homey. I love it.
It's true. I didn't do my SNL voice intro. I didn't do special guest Shelise but that's only because I procrastinate and make these a half hour before we start. As you are well aware.
We do the same thing.
Now, you, Shelise, are an ex-Mormon. Is this true?
Am.
I hope it is, because I labeled a video that we did together, Ex-Mormon v. XJW.
We have done some fun collabs, and this was way back at the beginning of our channel a couple years ago.
I know.
And it was so much fun. Everyone loved our videos together, and we recently put out a poll, and we're like, hey, who's your favorite XJW content creator? And so many people said you, and I was like, we gotta bring him back on, because that was so fun. So thanks for inviting me to your channel.
Listen, you know what? I'm not going to be the biggest, but I'm going to be some people's favorites. And that's what I've always said about this channel. And I appreciate you coming on. I loved our collab. And your channel is great. If people haven't seen Cults of Consciousness, Shelise interviews people from all sorts of different faith backgrounds. Can you just tell us a little bit about what you've been doing before we get into this?
Sure. Yeah, I feel like the simplest way to put it is interviewing cult survivors. So people who have left high control groups and or religions, organizations. Sometimes high control people, we cover those who experience narcissistic fathers or narcissistic partners, and it ended up being an abusive situation. So we let them come on and share their stories in their own words, and it's really heavy sometimes. It's very inspirational all times, and it's great. We're just trying to expose the culty things out there and shine a light on those dark things that most people don't know are going on.
Yeah, I love it because, like you said, I've been doing some call-in shows lately, the Religious Trauma call-in show, and I just expected. Thank you so much. I have just been handed a cup of coffee.
That's so
nice.
Now
the stream can properly begin. Wonderful. But yeah, what I have found is people will call in and they have a totally different religious background or maybe non-religious, but they have a narcissistic family. And the abusive structures, incentives, and behaviors are so similar. Yeah. There's a shared language, I think, between all of these different groups and experiences. And one similar thing that's a little weird is that Mormons have a very similar structure to Jehovah's Witnesses in the sense that they also have an annual convention, but they call it General
Conference.
Conference. Can you tell us what that is like? Like, what's the experience for Mormons?
Yeah, conference is interesting. And by the way, for those watching just now seeing us collab for the first time, we did multiple videos comparing notes between Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormons
That's
because
true.
they're
I'll add those to the description.
endless similarities. But conference, for one, is twice a year, and all of the higher ups get together. The prophet speaks, the president of the church, the prophet, who we were told has a direct line to God. I think that's a little different from you guys, but they
Yeah.
claim to be a mouthpiece for God. And so everyone gets together. It's a weekend, and you sit down with your family and you take notes, and you have little bingo cards of like that you get in Sunday school to keep the kids awake.
Yes.
And it just drones on forever and ever. And you're just supposed to get these lessons. And they always tell stories that were like, did that really happen? Or did you just make this up to give us a story that fits your agenda? So, very similar stuff, I'm sure, is going to come out. We recently covered General Conference, I want to say a month ago. And so that's pretty fresh in my mind. And I'm sure the videos that you show are going to align in similar messages. So I'm excited to blind react to this.
Yeah, we will see. I also tuned into your general conference a month or two
Oh, you
ago,
did?
and it was really interesting, but it is so similar. It is so similar in that it is a series of kind of old, boring guys, not all old, but mostly old, giving, yeah, the kind of boring Bible lectures. And is it in person always, or is it also like streamed?
It's
Your like
mostly,
general conference?
well, it's always in person in Salt Lake at the Mormon Tabernacle,
I
but
see.
it is, did I even say that right? Am I remembering the name? Wow, I'm so proud of myself for forgetting some of my culty upbringing.
Love that. I love that for you.
But it is always streamed because we never went to it ourselves. I know that you were considered a very good Mormon if you went to go and actually sit in on it, but we just watch from home. So it's both. And because Mormonism is all over the world, they have to stream it to everybody.
Yeah. All right, that's great. It's very similar. The only difference is that Jehovah's Witnesses do set up these conventions all around the world and will rent out stadiums or county fairgrounds or whatever and hold these conventions. But they also do stream them. It was really kind of during the pandemic when they started streaming more consistently. But we're just going to get right to it. I've pulled clips for Sunday, but I remembered later that we actually, I don't think, got to all of Saturday last week. So what's going to happen is we're going to go about an hour here, and then we're going to switch over to your channel. But this is amazing. With the power of technology, Shelise has shown me the ability to just, we're going to switch streams.
Redirect.
We're going to redirect. I'm still learning all the newfangled terms. We're going to redirect over there. There's also a link into the description for their channel. And I am going to I've kind of ordered these in escalating cultiness. So I am saving really weird stuff for you guys. And I don't think that we've really talked about them on our channel either.
Can I
So
ask a
people should
question
definitely,
before you play a video?
please do.
How are all of the conferences streamlined, or if they hold them in different places simultaneously, but it's not streamed from one central location, are they all the same, or do they differ? Or are they just supposed to hit play on a video?
Holy Spirit is the answer. Only with Jehovah's Holy Spirit could such incredible global organization happen. No, so
Got
what
it.
happens is, like, every year, the teaching committee, like at the branch headquarters of Jehovah's Witnesses, they generate all of these different, like, they make a program for what the convention's going to be. And they
Mhm.
have a program that's available on the website if you wanted to look at it, what all the talks are going to be. They write outlines, and they distribute these outlines all over the world, and they just kind of delegate on down. So every convention does have the exact same talks in the fact that it's like the same program and the same outlines. But over in, I'm in Ohio, over in Michigan, they have the exact same thing, but their local brothers will be giving the talk. So it is a little weird. But
Interesting.
in addition to that, there is also like the videos, like the pre-recorded dramatizations, those
Mhm.
are filmed at headquarters and they're just played all over the world with different
Okay.
like language dubs. And so, yes, some of it will literally be everyone's just watching the same video about Jesus. All the ones that we're watching today will pretty much be the same. But yeah, it is kind of weird that it is different people giving the talks, but it's the same talks. So it's
Mm-hmm.
pretty much the exact same thing.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah,
Because I was invited, as you know. I think that's why you reached out.
it's
They
true.
knocked on
I
my
saw that you.
door, woke up the baby, and I was like, no. And I went down and I
Oh.
was like, who's at the door? And Jonathan hands me the pamphlet, and I was like, they found us.
They knocked on our door like a week or two ago. I wasn't even home. Thank you to Dr. Doc Shemp for the super sticker, by the way. So let us look at our very first video here, and I've titled this one "Gay."
I saw
Jesus
that in the
kept
Google Drive.
trying.
Okay, so I have included a little bit of context. Let's see, can we do this? And then, oh yes, and then we can see the screen even better.
Nice.
Yeah, I think we like this better. All right, so I'm going to see a little bit of this guy's lead up. So we have some context. We're the connoisseurs
No,
of context.
Jesus kept trying to help Nicodemus understand the truth. He tried a different line of reasoning. He used simple statements.
We do love simple statements.
Imitate Jesus when talking to others about sensitive subjects or about deeply entrenched false beliefs? In the following video, note how a young publisher imitated Jesus.
Okay, I'm going to pause it. If you need me to pause it or want to say something, just like raise your hand or gesture to me and I could totally pause it. I am just going to explain that publisher is the name, like the name within the group just for like a member. So it's just like a young Jehovah's
Oh,
Witness.
I'm
When
glad
he
you
says
said
like a
that.
young publisher, that
I
just
thought
means
you meant like an
a member.
actual. Got it.
Yes. Yeah, okay. So now we are going to get to the pre-recorded video here.
Okay.
I always had good relationship with everyone in my class, and I always wanted to keep it that way. I wanted to be liked, I wanted to be accepted, I wanted to feel that people want to talk to me. All my classmates and teachers knew my stand on certain beliefs when it came to topics about neutrality or celebrations. But of course, with age, certain topics changed that I wasn't prepared for. And it made me a bit scared that I won't be liked anymore and that I'm going against the grain. A new girl joined our class. I was praying to Jehovah for a long time that I want a Bible study, and I thought that this could be my chance. One day we were talking, and she had started to tell me that she's actually interested in a girl, someone that she's wanted to date. And I totally froze. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know if I should say something. The bell rang, so I didn't say anything. But I knew that this topic will come up again. I felt so overwhelmed. How can I talk about something so sensitive, present it in a way that shows that Jehovah is loving and kind, but in the same way, talk about how I don't support it because it goes
Okay.
against my beliefs?
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Raising my hand.
Yes, ma'am.
How do you talk about it? You don't. You don't talk
don't.
about it.
She
You
had the
don't.
right
It's not-
thing right off the bat. Don't speak, I say.
Yeah, that's tricky, and right off the bat, it's making me feel very anxious because I think that showing this to young teens and promoting the fact that they should speak up and say to their classmates, you shouldn't be living the life that you're living, or Jehovah doesn't approve of you, but he loves you. It's going to put a lot of teens in really bad situations, in situations that they don't need to put themselves in if they're already feeling othered at school. And we know this based on our conversations with you and other people who are Jehovah's Witnesses, and they have to leave the classroom when they do celebration things at school.
Yeah.
And there's no reason for them to further other themselves from their peers by espousing their beliefs in disagreement. I mean, I feel like it's one thing to say, oh, Jesus loves you and be kind, but this clearly isn't going to go that direction. And it's just harmful, I think, to promote to teenagers to do this at school.
I agree. I my like waking up process, I really started when they started showing videos like this. Somebody said earlier that when they were growing up, they didn't show videos at conventions, and that's true. This is somewhat new. Like, with the last 10 years or so, they started doing this basically to make them less boring. But seeing this kind of thing made me feel like, wait a minute, I just thought I was internalizing all of this shame and self-consciousness in school. But now it's like they're mandating it. That's the way it should be. And I don't think that's good. I don't think that kid should be raised that way. So yes,
Yeah.
but you know what? Maybe she's going to turn out to be an ally. So let's see.
Okay, let's find out.
Let's find out.
So I prayed to Jehovah for him to give me wisdom. I made it a goal in my personal study, and I opened the Young People Ask book because it has a topic about homosexuality, and it had great examples about how to talk about it tactfully. And I wrote them down and thought, how could I formulate it in a way that I would say it naturally? So not too long after that, a girl from my class comes up to me and she's talking about this new couple in the school, and she mentioned that it's 2 girls. Only this time, I wasn't too shocked, and I was prepared. She said, "You're one of Jehovah's Witnesses, right? So you don't support homosexuality. You hate them, right?" And I calmly explained to her that she is right that we don't support homosexuality, but that does not mean that we hate the people. The Bible doesn't approve of smoking either, but most of my class smokes, and I never ignored them or disrespected them. And it's the same in this situation as well. I saw that she didn't agree with me 100%, but she wasn't upset, and she did listen to me, and I saw that she was thinking it over. And we continued to talk after that. I felt so relieved after that conversation, and I felt that Jehovah was so proud of me, that he was like right there with me, and it just reassured me that when other controversial topics will come up again, Jehovah will help me prepare and season my words with salt so that I could be tactful with the people and share my beliefs.
Yay! It was a happy
Okay.
story.
Okay. I'm happy that she didn't try and confront the person who was gay, because I thought that's where it was going. And
That's true. That's true.
yes, so that's not as bad as I thought. I fully support people having their own beliefs and sharing them if they choose to. I do like that they're telling teenagers to be tactful and not hateful. Huge plus. Give them
That's
that.
true.
I guess if I had to criticize, and maybe this is splitting hairs, people who choose to smoke are not the same as people who are gay. That's
Yeah.
not, because they present it as a choice, and they do that in Mormonism too, where they say you're choosing same-sex attraction, just don't choose it. And this is something that you have to not get over, but endure. God made you this way so that you could be
Yes.
tested and endure to the end, and just don't act on your same-sex attraction. And so I think that seems to be how they're presenting it, and maybe that's the way that you were taught as well, is that it's something that can be fixed or changed. And so they're presenting those options as, well, just don't smoke and don't be gay. And I feel like that's where a lot of the issue is, because then it's going back to the whole hate the sin, not the sinner. And yeah, I just don't agree with that. But that's my own personal opinion, and some people may disagree and think that homosexuality is a sin. I don't. So,
Yeah, by the way, Bo is really making himself known here. Sorry.
Hey,
that
buddy.
You had some slight distractions. Hey, Bo. Yes, the idea that smoking, they've used this analogy like my whole life. And like they'll use alcoholism too. It's the same few excuses, and it's just like, but that's not the same thing. Like smoking, you have to accept the premise that homosexuality is evil and bad and some aberration, because smoking is a choice and an addiction, and it is only bad for you. Like whereas being in a consensual relationship with someone just isn't bad. It just isn't dangerous. And so you kind of have to accept this premise. And I think, like you said, it's almost like, well, smokers, they crave a cigarette, but they just don't. God doesn't want them to smoke. And it's the same thing. You crave gay sex, but you can't. You mustn't. But it's also just not true, because Jehovah's Witnesses don't go out of their way to make videos about people who struggle with smoking and like not inheriting God's kingdom. Like, I feel like God would forgive a cigarette more than he would forgive a gay person in the JW construction.
What are the rules in Jehovah's Witnesses? Because in Mormonism, you can, quote, be gay, but you can't act on it. And you can go to church and have a temple recommend. But if you were to, for example, if I were to kiss a girl, I would get more of a punishment, or almost the same amount of punishment for doing that as someone who had premarital sex, for example. It's really extreme, the difference in the way that they treat those sins, quote, sins. And so what are the punishments for Jehovah's Witnesses, if any?
No, that's a good question. Bo, I'm going to have to kick you out of here.
Bo, what are you doing, Bo? Bo doesn't like this either.
He's not going to... No, he's like, stop playing this terrible video.
He has opinions.
He does... Well, he has so many opinions on this channel. He makes them known every week. But, so the punishment, like, smoking, yes. If you were a Jehovah's Witness and you started smoking, you could probably get disfellowshipped for that, like, if you didn't give it up.
We just had someone on who that happened to. Well, that happened to their brother. So, yes, I know that is
really,
in fact, true.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, no. And we had a family member on my wife's side who was disfellowshipped for that reason. So it does happen. At the same time, I think, God damn it, he just kicked this, like, thing in my face.
Rude, Bo.
He's really rude. At the same time, I do feel like it's just different to me because it's not a choice. Like, being gay is a lifelong struggle and an innate part of you. And so there is definitely more just fear within the organization about that. Somebody pointed out earlier, I think it was Lava Blue in the comments, that they obsess over gay women specifically. And I have noticed this as well, like the infamous Caleb and Sophia cartoon. Is Sophia talking about somebody in class with two mommies. And in this video alone, like, both of the instances of homosexuality were with women. And I don't know why that is. I think it's because, and I don't know if it's this way in Mormonism as well, but there is more, like, they just hate. I can't tell if it's because they fetishize gay women in a way, but, like, because it's all men making these videos, even fictional gay guys make them uncomfortable. I don't know. But yes, you can also be, like, witnesses now acknowledge that you can have homosexual inclinations, but you're just not allowed to act on them. And that, to me, is like, well, have we really improved anything? I don't know. I don't know if that's
It's not the same way in Mormonism. They almost never include instances of lesbians. It's always the man. And at least from what I see, what I saw growing up, maybe it's different now, but when I grew up in the church, I honestly don't even think I realized a woman could be gay. That's how sheltered I was from reality, living in Utah in a primarily Mormon town. So, yeah, it was definitely not the same. I feel like with yours, it is a fetish thing. And I really wonder if that girl actually had that happen to her or if it was part of a script.
That's a great question. And people always ask this. I like whether or not the stories are real. On the assemblies, which are kind of smaller versions of the conventions, they'll just interview people from local congregations. They probably still do that for some convention talks too. But I was interviewed a couple times as a exemplary young Jehovah's Witness. I know. I was quite the go-getter. And I can confirm that they do, like, massage your story. Like, well, maybe say it like this. Or maybe leave out that part. Could you emphasize how you felt connected to Jehovah in this? So I wouldn't say that it's totally fake, but it's also not totally real either.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of the organization. But yeah, these things kind of turn into fish stories. But I think these things feel real to the members. Like that girl felt like she went through this divine crisis, and I don't know if she really did, but it felt that way in her mind.
I have to point out one more thing because I
Yeah,
think it's important to note that they're highlighting, like you just said, something that is so simple, a basic interaction with another human being, and blowing it out of proportion, out of like, oh, I
yes,
have to go study, I have to go pray, I have to know how to speak to this human being, which is so silly because if they really did preach love and compassion, wouldn't it just be, oh, I love you for who you are? That's not what I believe, but good for you. You know, it shouldn't be
yeah.
that difficult to just be loving.
No, it shouldn't. And now that you say that, witnesses love citing this verse. I don't remember where it is in the Bible. But like if you are married to a non-witness, the idea is you're kind of supposed to win them over without a word. Like through your just example of being a good Christian, they'll naturally want to convert.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so
We have that
why?
too.
Okay, yeah. So why wouldn't it just be that way with gay people? Like, hey, you know what? Just don't bring it up. Just be nice, and win them over without a word. But no, like they are definitely pressured. They must preach to their
Yeah, preaching.
classmates. You can't just
That's the
let this.
bottom line. That's the
Yeah,
message is don't stay silent. You have to be an example, but not just by your example. You have to tell people what you believe to bring more people in or to preach. And that should never be a child's job.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And I also think like I've been really interested lately in the kind of cult idea of the humiliation ritual. That seems to be kind of a constant throughout high control groups. It's obviously not called that by the group, but you are expected to do something kind of humiliating that makes you embarrassed. Like the outside world sees that as embarrassing, but that shared embarrassment kind of binds you to the group. And preaching, I think, is like that with Jehovah's Witnesses, where it is weird to be out in a suit on a Saturday morning knocking on doors instead of being somebody inside taking care of their baby and eating breakfast, and you're the person that's bothering people on a Saturday morning. But that kind of embarrassing ritual experience makes you feel ostracized from the world and makes you feel closer to the group. And I
Mm.
think this kind of thing, like making sure that kids feel ostracized because you're pressuring them to preach their JW stuff, I think that is also a kind of a strategy. Like it will make you feel like more of a Jehovah's Witness and less like somebody who belongs in the world.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of part of what they're going for.
Mm-hmm.
Make the outside world a little scarier than it actually is. All right, now the next one I have is called preaching.
They enjoy what they hear, but find it difficult to make the necessary changes and adjustments in their life.
Oh, right. Okay. So when he's saying they, he's talking about people who are studying. So if you're a Jehovah's Witness and you're studying with somebody who's maybe going to convert, they might not be willing to make some changes that they need to be a Jehovah's Witness. I think that's what he's talking about.
Or they may allow the fear of man to prevent them from making progress. What can you do if something is holding you back from making spiritual progress? Well, in the following video presentation, notice how a Bible student overcame the fear of man.
When I became an unbaptized publisher, even though I wholeheartedly believed in the teachings and principles of the Bible and I had an appreciation for Jehovah, the concept of knocking on people's doors, talking to strangers, it's intimidating and goes against my personality.
Okay, so actually, this is a little bit of what I'm talking about. This is not comfortable for this person, but they have to do it. And so just a little clarification on language. So an unbaptized publisher, when you start going to meetings, you're kind of like a proto Jehovah's Witness. You're a little JW in training. And so you, even though you are not fully baptized, you're kind of supposed to act like you already are. And so that's an unbaptized publisher. They're working towards getting baptized and being an official Jehovah's Witness. But right now, they're just in training, doing their doors and stuff.
When I would approach a door, I felt like my feet would stop working, my palms would sweat. I would do just the softest knock, and I was thinking, please don't come out, please don't answer. I was afraid of the person behind the door. I felt like I didn't give a good impression of Jehovah. My fears and limitations made me feel that I don't deserve to be called one of Jehovah's Witnesses. I isolated myself from the congregation. I focused my time and efforts in my secular work. Before I realized, it was already more than a decade that I have been spiritually stagnant. I tried to find a sense of belongingness and also find any semblance of fulfillment in my life, but I was not successful. I wanted to make an effort to go back to the organization. In order for me to gain confidence in speaking about Bible truths to other people, I needed to refresh my knowledge and add on to my knowledge about Jehovah and his kingdom. So I restarted my Bible study, and I had a more consistent schedule in my personal study, my Bible reading, and my meditation. These were the gasoline for me to rekindle my fire and love for Jehovah. I made it a goal to raise my hand and comment during meetings. This helped me out in preparation for public speaking. In order for me to overcome my fear in preaching work, I knew that I had to start somewhere small. So when people from my congregation would invite me to do letter writing with them, I would always go, because writing down the words that I cannot say out loud prepared me in knowing what to say next time around when I get to meet people personally. And instead of giving me anxiety to preach, it gave me joy this time. Something as small as your fear, your love for Jehovah is bigger than that. So after 12 years of being an unbaptized publisher, I decided to dedicate my life to Jehovah and get baptized. When I go out in the ministry, I think the nerves will always be there. It doesn't go away. But instead of softly knocking, I can be more confident because I know that with Jehovah's help, I can overcome my fear.
I hate it. I hated that. That was the worst.
Can you bring up Jenny Bloom's comment that starts with poor thing? I think you may have started because
I
that's how I was
can
feeling.
indeed.
I was
did
about to
start
say the
this comment.
same type of thing. Poor thing tasked with doing something designed to make you scared and feeling shame for being scared. That was exactly how I was feeling in the beginning, where she's just like, oh, I was terrified. And she went on to explain what cognitive dissonance is.
Yes.
Something didn't feel right and I just didn't want to do it and I didn't feel like I belonged. That was cognitive dissonance. Those were your red flags going, I don't know if I belong here. This doesn't resonate with me. This doesn't feel good. But forcing it for 10 years, here are the things that I am okay with. People facing fears because they choose to and gaining skills that help them in life. Confidence is always going to be a good skill, and public speaking is a great skill to have. Forcing someone into that because she feels less than, it was very clear that in order for her to gain that confidence, she had to do all the things that they list and check all the boxes. And in Mormonism, it was the same. It's, let me present you with a problem. You have a problem because you're not confident. We have the solution. You just have to do all of these things and then it'll be solved. So they present you with a problem you didn't know that you had, give you the solution, which requires complete obedience and blind obedience. And then maybe you'll have the solution, but usually you don't because it's a cycle of I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough. I don't know. I think this video is nuanced and there are positives and negatives, but ultimately it just made me feel really uncomfortable.
Yeah, no, this was really uncomfortable. It was horrible. And I think you're so right that those were her red flags. That's your conscience talking. I saw somebody, I wish I could like credit this person, but it was some random Reddit comment I saw early in my deconstruction process. It was a post on the XJW subreddit, and some people probably know that Jehovah's Witnesses, their meetings are very participatory. Like you raise your hand and can participate in the meetings. And somebody said, like, do you ever remember being at the meeting and you would hear a comment and it was like a weird comment? And you were like, oh, I hope nobody new is at the meeting today, because if they heard that, they probably would think that we're a cult. That was your conscience. That was your conscience telling you you're in a cult. But you weren't listening. Like, you had been trained to kind of suppress those parts of yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that that's exactly what we're seeing. I saw another comment that, okay, well, first of all, this is really true. And this is a kind of fundamental contradiction at the heart of JW teaching, which is God draws people to the organization. If you're a Jehovah's Witness, that's because Jehovah drew you. And you obviously, his will be done. But also, this woman has this fear that she's like giving a bad impression of Jehovah, like that she's making God look bad because she is personally not great at like giving a sales pitch at a door, which is totally crazy. And so that's a big contradiction. And I also saw somebody talk about the pain of POMIs, P-O-M-I. That's like physically out, mentally in. And it really does happen a lot where people, maybe they are raised in the organization for a little bit, but then their parents don't continue with it. But they just, as a kid, they have those memories of being at the meeting, or they studied for a little bit. And that stuff will stick in their brain for years, or like in this person's case, a decade. And that whole time, she's like, maybe I should join the religion. Maybe I should go back. Maybe they had a point. And like, what a miserable way to live. Awful.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. All of it's just really uncomfortable. I mean, do you notice the music changes? It's so on purpose. And I don't blame them for that. I mean, everybody does it, but just
Yes.
the kind of slow and ominous at the beginning, and then do 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 do, and everything picks up and it's
Yeah.
exciting now, and she's a good speaker, and it's just like,
Yeah.
that
And the
manipulation
music,
tactic.
the music really tells the story, because if you change the music under it, I mean, it would be a very different story. Like, you could very easily make that into a horror film. And also, thank you to QC Man for gifting 5 memberships. We love to see it. We have somebody trying to preach in the comments. This is really
Hey.
exciting. Dropping some scriptures. Very interesting. Okay, so next up on the docket. Oh wait, let me get rid of this clip here. Remove from studio. Video file. And this one I have simply entitled Women.
Was younger.
So I don't know. Pay attention to this one, I guess. Okay, I remember this now. This is about a guy who had some trouble with misogyny. Thankfully, the least prejudiced religion in the world, Jehovah's Witnesses, gave him a very healthy view of women.
When I was younger, I didn't see women being treated very well. Even though they were working so hard, they weren't appreciated or respected. If a woman gave a suggestion, no one listened or followed it. This all had an effect on me, and I even started to think that it was correct, and I got used to it.
This attitude also affected my family. When I had something to say, no one really listened. I didn't really have the freedom to express myself. After we got married, similar things happened with Abhishek. He didn't really listen to what I had to say. Even when I would try to speak with others, he would talk over me.
I felt like I knew more than her. So even if Sunita tried to say something, I didn't encourage her to speak up.
Since I was treated this way all throughout my childhood, and then I saw that it was the same even now, it made me very depressed. Sometimes I even felt worthless. So finally we talked about it, and I told him how I was feeling.
it was still difficult for me to understand Sunita's feelings. But on one occasion, I observed from a distance while a circuit overseer and his wife were talking with some sisters. He was looking at his wife so kindly while she was speaking. He was supportive and encouraging to her. When I saw them, it made me happy. So I thought, why am I not like that with my wife? Why am I unable to support her like that? I examined myself honestly. I spoke to Sunita about it, and she helped me see where I needed to make changes. Also, by meditating on examples from Jesus' life, I saw where I could make more improvements. Jesus respected women very much. While studying this, a desire to imitate Jesus grew in me. I realized that I needed to be kinder and more loving in what I say to Sunita and how I treat her. And when speaking with sisters in the congregation, I want to really listen to them and support them.
I also learned a lot about respecting others and how to view them correctly. So instead of viewing some sisters as inferior or less prominent, I want to spend quality time with them and learn from them.
I know that there's still a lot for me to learn. When I have a decision to make, I talk with Sunita about it. Many times, her suggestions are much better than mine.
Yes, I would say that now we make a really good team. Abhishek shows more love to me than ever before. He understands me, and he shows that he values me through his words and his actions. And that makes me truly happy.
Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts? Wait, you're muted. I can't hear you.
My bad. Am I unmuted now?
I was like, oh
Okay.
no, what happened?
My bad. Okay. I have mixed feelings about this. I mean, it is good that within their limited framework of like, this is a patriarchy and women are weaker vessels and they believe in divine headship and all that. Sorry, my camera is also like slow motion, kind of. I don't know why that's happening. So within their own construction of kind of a sexist religion, I think it is good that they are giving men direction to not be as domineering. But I do think it's a little weird that, like, kind of randomly later in the video, the woman's just like, and also I learned to not look at women as being lesser. I was looking at some women in the congregation as lesser because they didn't have privileges. And it's like, what? It seemed like the whole time she didn't have any problems. And it was kind of trying to make it seem like, well, she was also part of the problem and maybe she didn't talk to men the right way. But it didn't, it just didn't address the underlying disparity that women have fewer rights in Jehovah's Witnesses. They are not giving any of these talks. They're not allowed to. Only men can give talks. Only men can be elders and ministerial servants. So on one hand, it's kind of the homophobia thing from earlier where it's finding a way to be a polite bigot rather than being just a good person. That's kind of my read on it, but I'm curious as to your read.
I wanted to hear your take first because I didn't know what it was like within Jehovah's Witnesses for women. And so if things were equal and they were like, hey guys, you're still being misogynistic when we allow women to do lots of things, but that's clearly not the case. I find it interesting that they feel the need to bring this up at all, because isn't that kind of a given in today's day and age to just respect your wife, respect women, don't talk over them? I feel like, okay, it's interesting that they feel like that might be a problem to begin with. The second thing I noticed was they clearly went to a different country to promote this issue or to show that there's an
Yes.
issue. And that felt a little off for me, or off-putting, I guess is the right word, where I'm thinking, okay, are they intentionally choosing this ethnic group or this nationality to showcase misogyny, which
Yes, I think so.
might be a thing. It might we've talked about this on our channel. We've talked about all groups from all over the world, so I don't know, but I feel like it's stereotyping a little bit. Is that wrong to
Yes.
say?
No, I
Okay.
totally agree.
So that felt a little odd, like you said, or she's like, I also learned how to not be misogynistic. And I was like, huh, what? I don't think
Yeah.
that's a thing. I don't think, as a woman, I don't think we are wired the way to think that women are less than. I think it is forced on us and pushed on us, and we're trampled down so much that some people may start to believe it. But the whole time, like you said, she was like, it bothered me. I was depressed about it. I wanted to be an equal. But then at the same time, again, this religion is saying, oh, you have a problem too. Let us fix it. The other weird thing I thought was, so Jehovah's Witnesses is claiming to have the solution to misogyny of like, don't worry, guys, we can help you be not misogynistic. And I thought, well, you don't really own that. Isn't that just being a good person? Like, I know that the world has come a long way, and it was not always like this. Women's rights have come a long way. And so maybe it is something that the older generations need to work more on. I don't know. It's just so weird. I feel uncomfortable even talking about it because it feels like such a given just to not talk over women and not be an asshole. Sorry, I swore.
Yeah. No, oh, we can
I
swear on
don't
this channel.
know.
It's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that is the really weird thing about it, and I'm glad that you brought up the kind of racial profiling part of it. This is something that they like to do. They really essentialize a culture pretty much every time they talk about higher education, which Jehovah's Witnesses are very against going to university for more than like 2 years. It's kind of weird and arbitrary. But every time they do that, they'll show like an Asian family who's worried about that. And every time there's some question about, like treating women, they'll choose somebody from like an Islamic country or just some other non-Christian religion.
Non-white.
Yeah, a non-white country. And it's kind of weird because it does seem to be like, well, this is a problem other places, not here. Our good American Jehovah's Witnesses don't have this problem, but maybe that's not right. Maybe that's not what they're going for. But it does feel like that's what they're going for.
It feels intentional.
Yeah, it does. And one of the next videos we'll watch deals with that. Now let me talk to our good friend TV. This is our Christian commenter. Jake, where does it say that it's wrong to go to university in the publications? The organization Owl Sways highlight the date. Always. I'm so sorry. Always highlight the dangers, but realize that such a decision is personal. No, that's not true at all. Just watch. I made a video about it, but I think that you know exactly what I'm talking about, TV. They don't say, don't go to college. But what do? They say, if you let your son or daughter go to college, is it possible that they could be persuaded to believe in something like evolution? Is it responsible to send your child to a 4-year university to learn a trade that we won't even need in the paradise? Are you going to put them in the lion's den where they're going to be faced with sexual temptation? I mean, if you do that, you're really putting your child in a terrible situation, and then you might have to answer to Jehovah. So, like, yeah, they say that college is dangerous. It's a part of Satan's world, and that these are secular, perverted institutions where they try and indoctrinate people with atheistic thinking. Like, they do all of this stuff. But what I find is that weasels like TV, or maybe he's nice, but this allows for members to weasel out of what the organization's actual stances are because they know this game that they're playing. I think
Yeah.
that people understand and have an innate understanding that this video that we just watched is like, no, we're not sexist. We actually just had a whole video at our last convention that showed this husband that was domineering to his wife. And it was a whole video about how he needed to be nicer to his wife. So you see, we can't be sexist. And so I think that this is what is happening, is videos like this make the members feel good. It makes, because these are basically pep rallies for Jehovah's Witnesses to make them feel good about their beliefs and bad about themselves, so that they know that they have to continue to work really, really hard to get all this sinful stuff out. And so that's what bothers me. Ron Pomo says it's totally okay. If it's totally okay, why does a child going to university automatically trigger an examination of an elder's qualifications to serve? And it's true. Like if you're an elder and you let your kids go to school, even if they're no longer living at home, it could make you be removed as an elder.
Wow.
It's
Punishing
pretty
the
extreme.
parents for the kids' transgressions.
The Bible is both for that and against that at different places. Now, usually, the Mormons have a different look at like higher education. But it does seem like women have more ability to have like things to do in the congregation. Is
Do
that
they?
true? Like within
That's
the
not
maybe
true.
not. I'm asking you. I don't know. What are
The
women allowed to do?
The highest calling, they call it a calling, that a woman can have would be the head of the Relief Society president. Or if you were, that's not true, like the higher ups, like the head of the entire Relief Society president. It's usually a little
Yeah.
old lady. That would be the highest calling that you can have. But even so, like they split up the church into different groups after the main, all of them get together for sacrament meeting, and then they break off and go into their separate classrooms and things. Even within what they call Relief Society, where all the old married women go, they still have to have a man present. Even when they go off to girls' camp and they take all the young women, the girls, and all the leaders are there, they still have to have a man present because they claim it's for safety. I think it's because they don't trust us. Always has to be a man there. He has to approve everything. He has to approve budgets. So they really aren't in charge. They just appear to be in charge. You can be a pianist, like for the congregation for sacrament meeting. You can be a librarian. You can teach Sunday school, and you can give talks because they don't have preachers in Mormonism. It's the ward, the congregation chooses people to go up and give a 5-minute talk or whatever, but they could never be a bishop or in the bishopric. Obviously never be a prophet or in the quorum of the 12 or the quorum of the 70. So yeah, it's still very much patriarchal.
Yeah. And I think that this is the tricky thing, is like, if you were to say to a Mormon, like, oh, you guys don't respect women, they'd be like, no, women have all these amazing things. And they would list off the things you just listed off. And I was like, yeah, but they have fewer rights than men do in the religious structure. And
yeah, there was a whole thing about that, like the ordained women movement that happened a few years ago, where women were rebelling by wearing pants to church, standing in solidarity. And I know people are like, whoa, not the pants.
Pants?
Not the pants. So that was a big thing, women just trying to be equal in the church. And men were like, you are so special, women, because you can bring children into this world, which I don't disagree with, but that's not the only reason women are special. Women are amazing, but that's the only thing they give to them, is your calling is to be a mother and rear children, which in some cases, great. If that's what you want, great. There are women who have emailed us and they're like, you know what, this is my hardship. I wasn't able to get pregnant, so I felt worthless. I didn't have a place in the
Yes.
church because I couldn't have a family, and everyone will adopt. Sure, but when you're a woman growing up in the church, you are made to believe your only responsibility, your sole purpose is to maintain your virtue, which means don't have sex or let anyone touch you before marriage. And then once you are married, have all the sex and all the babies and bring them down from heaven, which is what they just discussed in General Conference of, even if your husband cheats on you and the mistress gets pregnant, this was a story they told, and we're like, did that really happen? If the mistress gets pregnant, then you should beg the mistress to keep the baby and raise it as your own. This was a story they
What?
told. This story, they're like, the wife found out that her husband cheated and that he got her pregnant, and the woman wanted to abort the baby. And the wife said, please, no, let me raise your child.
Wow.
Why are we promoting this? This insane amount of sacrifice that women
Yes.
have to go through. It's just, I don't know. And abortion, that's a talk for another day. That's not even the point here. The point is, why would you glorify that as what you should be as a wife? If your husband cheats, why is it you
Yeah.
have to stay with him and raise his child from another woman? It's
Yeah.
too much.
It's in each instance of these videos that we've watched, it's like normative conflict that all humans experience, and they are adding on this other really stressful layer of it that makes people feel guilty and inadequate. And when you think about it, like that couple, I don't know, seems like they didn't have a great marriage, and maybe that guy just wasn't a very respectful husband. Well, divorce is not an option within Jehovah's Witnesses, so you're just stuck. You just have to make it work. And so you're just stuck. You just have to do it. And that's the situation that you're in a cult. Is it's like, well, people in the world, I guess what they would do is just not go out door to door because it makes them uncomfortable and gives them panic attacks. So they just don't do that because there's no need to. But sorry, if you're an introvert and have social anxiety and have panic attacks, you still just have to do it. You still have to go door to door. And that is your cross to bear. But torture stake for Jehovah's Witnesses. And that's the thing with cults, is like they're kind of creating a problem that they then have to sell you the solution to. When in reality, there probably
There's no
already
problem.
is a solution, or it's not. Yeah. I'm getting flustered talking about this, but yeah, I found that really bizarre. I found that to be a bizarre one, that last video we watched.
Well, this is perfect timing because we're 2 minutes to the switching over. Did you
We
have
are.
any final thoughts? That's usually my line, sorry, for my channel. Any final thoughts before we go to my channel?
This is perfect. It's great to have a fellow host on here who can keep me in line. That's great. Final thoughts. Well, these were somewhat depressing. The next few that we're going to watch are definitely less depressing. They're weird. But they are fun. And I would say definitely subscribe to Cults of Consciousness. That's all I have to say.
Thanks.
Subscribe to that
Thanks,
channel.
Jake.
It's good. What is your overall impression of having to sit for, like, I don't know, 8 hours of what we've just endured?
Oh, 8
That sound
hours, that's a
appealing to
hard
you?
pass. I could barely get through 2 hours of Mormon General Conference. I would always
I
fall
know.
asleep. I mean, I would try so hard. I would have my notebook and I'd be ready to take notes because if you showed up the next Sunday with your notebook full of General Conference notes, you were a good Mormon and you got 5 gold stars.
Oh, yes.
So I was like trying to take notes, and then you can see my handwriting just gets more and more illegible, or how do you say that?
Illegible.
It was illegible. Okay. And
You had
I just doze off. And my mom was awesome. She never really cared. She was like, take a nap, Shelise. You've been at school all week. You've been doing dance practice at 4 a.m. Like, you deserve to take a nap. She was great. But yeah, we tried our hardest, and we felt guilty if we didn't watch it. But you can't. It's so, and they all talk the same. When I watched some Jehovah's Witnesses videos, I was like, this could easily be a Mormon talk where it's the
I know.
brothers and sisters, thank you for being here on this Sabbath day. It's just like, oh,
Thank you.
fall asleep. So they do it on
It is
purpose.
so slow and like meticulous, this way of talking. There's a
Yeah.
character in Seinfeld who's really religious who also talks like that.
Oh, how funny.
I can't
Yeah.
remember this guy's name. But yes, thank you so much for watching, everybody. At some point in the next 30 seconds-ish, we're going to be switching. This is kind of like a rocket ship, really, as far as I'm concerned. Why is it so slow? It's just me. It's me being slow. And I think it's because I have this filter on. I think it's because I have the blur filter on my face.
Oh no, it's
I'll
fine.
turn it off
so
I can be
yeah,
fast and ugly.
If you guys are watching, thanks for being here. If you want to continue the conversation with us over on our channel, when we end the stream, it should automatically redirect you to Cults to Consciousness. You may have to hit the play button once you get over there. If it does not, Jake has put the link in the description, and hopefully we'll see you on over there. Thanks for having me on, Jake.
Thank you for being here, Shelise. Yay! Do I hit end stream? Is
Yes.
that what I do? Okay.